Welcome to the 2024-25 Reflections Workshop. The slideshow itself has a lot of information that you can read on your own, and it can be found on scpta.org/reflections. I'm briefly going to go over each slide and give a little bit more information, though. So I recommend you write down your questions because the answer might come up in a future slide. At the end, I'm going to stick around until all questions are answered. So let's get started. All right, Reflections is a national PTA-sponsored program that encourages students to get creative based on a specific theme. This year's theme is Accepting Imperfection. You can find promotional graphics by clicking the link on this slide or on the state and national Reflections websites. The theme is selected through national theme competition. It starts at the state level. Students submit their theme ideas through our Google form, which that's that link right there. But click here. And then we select our top 5 submissions to send to national. You can share that link with your families, post it on social media, and the winner at national will get $100. I'd like to note that some students may not be able to submit on their district issued devices if their districts block Google Forms that have been created by people who do not have a district email address. I am the one who created it. It's at SCPTA, not at Greenville or at Dorchester or whichever district you're from. So your district might end up blocking it. If that's the case, they can fill it out at home on a personal device. And just if you get any questions like that, like it's not working, just let them know, maybe try it out on a personal device. So here's a list of important dates, and I'm going to add them to a Reflections email that I'll put out in the next few days. You can always come back to this slideshow, though, if you lose them, and I'm having them added to our website. So you'll be able to just refer right to the website for that also. As usual, we are offering all categories and divisions. I'd like to point out that as far as we're concerned, students can enter as many times, as many categories as they wish. The same student can submit 2 dance submissions, 3 music, 4 photography. We don't have a limit to only 1 entry per category. However, you can choose to limit. I don't think that's beneficial. The 3rd entry a student creates could end up being the thing that wins national. If you choose to allow them to submit just 1 thing, you could limit the potential for your school to have some amazing entries. So if you're a new chair and your school has always just allowed 1, consider asking why. It might be that maybe you used to do physical entries and didn't have anywhere to store them, and now you're doing digital submissions. That wouldn't be an issue anymore. So just something to consider for this year. Also, please note that the first of those big changes that I've been talking about on social media and emails and everything, there is a new title for the special division. It is now called Accessible Arts Division. So if you're like me and you have all your information saved from last year and you just copy and paste, you're going to have to go over all that and make sure that anywhere you have something worded as special artists, you're going to need to update that to Accessible Arts Division. So for the Accessible Arts Division, they can enter, if a student qualifies for it, they can choose to enter into the traditional grade division. It's their choice which one they want to submit under. If they go under traditional grade, they have to follow the same rules as everybody else who's in there. They can't get any additional assistance. That's not allowed for other kids in that grade level. If they choose to enter the Accessible Arts Division, they can receive non-artistic accommodations from an adult, and they are going to be recognized as an Accessible Arts winner. So if you click on that link at the bottom, just so you know, throughout this slide, anything that's this light blue color is a clickable link. Anything that's yellow is just something I highlighted as, hey, make sure you really pay attention to this part of the slide. So if you click that, it's just going to bring you to the more information on what qualifies as an accessible arts student. It's also can be found under detailed category rules, which I'll show you that in a little bit. So become familiar with the state and national websites for important information and forms. I've made a few changes recently to our page and added a few things. I'm going to go over that soon. So who can participate? All compliant PTAs in South Carolina have the option of participating. You do have the option of accepting homeschooled students in your area. The plus side is it adds the chance for your school being recognized and allows the child an opportunity to participate in something they normally wouldn't. But the negative is that you could have a winner that doesn't actually attend your school, even though they're representing your school, they wouldn't actually be your student. Finally, this is a big one, see another yellow. Um, Students do not have to have a membership to participate. This is a common misconception. You can run your program however you want. So you do have the option of requiring a membership with an entry, but it is not a requirement of state or national. This confusion stems from the portion of the older entry form where it asked if dues had been paid. It was asking whether or not the school is in compliance by having paid their dues, not asking if the student had paid their dues. So that's where that comes from. That is not a requirement of state or national. So the first thing you need to do to start your program is register with PTA. When you're registering, you're going to select local PTA. You're registering your unit, not individuals. We don't allow for individuals in South Carolina. Sometimes it's hard to remember if you registered. So that's this link here. And this link is also going to be listed on our website. It's not there yet. It will be there soon. So if you click it, it tells you the list of schools that have registered, and you can see up at the top, I update the date to the last time I have updated the spreadsheet. So National sends me frequently, I think it's like every 2 weeks or so, they update their list. So if you don't see your name on there, but you have registered recently, it could just be that either they didn't send the update or I haven't done the update. So you don't need to register a second time. Just wait, check back in another 2 weeks or so and see if your name is on that list. So next, you need to decide if you are going to do paper or digital entries. If you decide to do paper entry forms and collect physical entries, please note we do not accept physical entries at the state level. You're going to have to take photos, scan, submit to the school winners to the state digitally. You're not going to be able to, we don't collect anything. Digital entry forms are much easier to deal with, but if you don't have any reflections volunteers that are tech savvy, you might choose to stick with paper. Maybe try a combination of both and see what works for you. You'll also need to choose a deadline that allows enough time for students to work on their entries and for you to get the entries judged in time to submit to district and state. So I typically suggest the second week of January as the school deadline. I think it's nice to give students a holiday break to finish their entries. And if your students have a significantly shorter amount of time to work on entries, they're kind of at a disadvantage compared to the other students in the state. So it's just my recommendation, but you are free to set your deadline. You can have a deadline in October if you wanted. It's up to you. But my recommendation is around early January. If you decide to do paper entry forms, there's a PDF and an editable document here. So the Word doc or the PDF. It's a complete student packet. So the first 2 pages is rules and guidelines. And then on the third page is an entry form. On the first page, you're going to want to update the due date and like how they should turn it in. And then on the third page, it's going to ask stuff like contact information and again, the deadline and stuff. So make sure you update the first and third page if you're going to use paper. If you use digital, you're going to want to use a Google form, Microsoft form, or something similar that allows you to collect all the same information that's on the paper copies. So consider what's accessible on your district issued student devices. So in the past, I only had a Google form. This year, I have Microsoft form available as well. So if you are a Microsoft district, you can click on that. Oh, I already had one clicked. So just click duplicate at the top and you will now be the owner of a Microsoft Reflections form. Edit it however you see fit. But that is available to you. If you do a Google form, you're going to click this is available right here. Google entry form right below it will say Microsoft entry form very soon. But so if you click it, whether on the slide or on the website, you're going to see this. Click make a copy. And so first, you're going to want to change the title. remove that copy of, and these bold italicized, they are notes to you. It's reminding you of the sections you need to edit. So delete this. I would just consider maybe leaving the link to the rules and guidelines, and just rephrasing whatever is in here that you want the message to the kids to say, but leave the link, or you can leave this. You can delete the photo, leave the link, leave the photo, whatever you choose to do. Edit that though. And then scroll down to section 2. Notice that I've made the student's name. It is also the waiver signature. So they don't have to type their name twice. They're just typing their name once, and that is the waiver and their name. It's covered up in one. Here, teacher homeroom, this section is a note to you. Remove that. This is just letting you know this is optional. And you can just delete that. If you don't need to know the teacher's name or homeroom, if you're not doing any kind of drawing, just delete that. On section 3, if you're in elementary school, you do not need middle and high school as a section. Go ahead and delete those. Then scrolling down to section 4 is where that's where a lot of the editing is going to really, again, bold note to chair, delete that. This is just reminding you that you need to change this to file upload. This is how the students will submit to you. So in order to do that, you're going to have to click continue. Then you can choose to allow only for certain images, or, you don't need spreadsheets. You don't need spreadsheets, so don't click that. Or you could just leave this. That really isn't relevant. I can't see any kids accidentally uploading spreadsheets to you. So change this though, however, to 5, because if a student is doing visual arts and they're taking photos of a sculpture, for example, they need to upload 3 photos of that sculpture. Or if you're middle and high school with music, they need to do sheet music. You need to be able to have at least 2 at the most. And so that's not an option. Over here, I changed this one to 1 gigabyte per file size. It's not really, not many kids are going to upload something that's a gig, but I still upload it. I update it to that. Then this note's going to pop up telling you need to change it. Click on change. And again, you'll see the red note saying you need to change that. So I changed it to a terabyte. You will never get a terabyte of stuff. I just put it there so that it never bothers me saying, hey, you're going to run out of space. So even if you do get a message saying you're running out of space, you're not. You won't, unless you're already out of space in your drive. In that case, I recommend creating a new Gmail that's like, shsreflections@gmail.com. Create something new if you're almost out of space. Here's some tips for going digital. One of the biggest issues that units run into is that school districts blocking reflections entry forms from student devices. So when I talk about this, I'm talking about the devices that the district gives your kids. If they provided a laptop or an iPad, they control what websites they can access. They typically block forms that have been created by parents, PTAs. It has to be created by a staff member. So you can enlist a staff member to create your Google or Microsoft form. So they would just have to be the one that clicked my links, and then they are the owner. They can share with you the folder that all the entries end up in. And then you can see the results, and students can fill out the form while they're in school. But if you don't have a staff member that you can reach out to, and you are the one that has to create the form, that's okay. You're just probably going to have to announce that students will have to complete it on a phone or personal device at home. Or they can maybe have a staff member help them. It would have to be done on staff devices. But students would most likely be blocked if you are the ones that create it and you do not have a district email address. Make sure you test out the form before you publicly share it. Especially if you can get it tested on a student device, use your kids and try and get it on their device. See what it looks like on theirs. If they can't fill out the form, then you need to promote that. Use this at home, fill it out at home. You're not able to use your own device at school. And then check your settings like I showed you. Make sure that your settings are set to receive uploads. This page is pretty self-explanatory, has some links that can be useful. The only tip I want to highlight is make sure you work with your school and district to determine what's been successful in the past. So if you're new, just make sure you find out, hey, what's working at your school or what worked if you speak to a former reflections chair from your school. There are new category rules, and we're going to go over those in a bit. But when you're ready to collect entries, make sure you're familiar with the program rules for each category. Flag incomplete entry forms and entries that do not follow guidelines. For example, if someone submits a photo collage as a photography, but it's actually visual arts, then make sure you just notify the student, hey, I'm changing this to visual arts entry, and make sure you're sending it to your visual arts judge. Um, Allow yourself some time before sending the entries to the judges so you have time to like flip through everything and make sure that everything is properly completed. If you submit an incomplete entry form or an incorrectly placed entry to state, it's going to get disqualified. In the past, I did try and track down missing information, um, or allow an entry to go through, but I would have to put a note to the judge that it can't be first place because it's not eligible to move on to national. So I can't let it be the first place. So I used to try and work around, but um, it's not fair to the ones that are entered properly. So going forward, I'm no longer going to be doing that. Please do not advance an entry if it's not complete or qualified. If you do, however, submit something that's going to be disqualified at state, and I am collecting entries on behalf of your district and the state, I will send that on to district. Even if I disqualified it, I'm going to send it to district and they can decide what they want to do with it at district level because my collection form is used for district and state for some of our districts. So start recruiting judges and recruit early. They should have some expertise in the category they're judging and should not have connections to students. So parents should not be judging the work of their own student. It's preferable that you don't have to use teachers as judges. They already do so much. Try to contact photography studios, private art and music teachers, local artists, etc. Make sure you give them specific deadlines and reminders. Provide them with the judging instructions and rubric. So on this, which is, you can find it on the website, I'll email it. You'll be able to find this again. But when you do send it to them, it does have the theme and it shows that the interpretation of theme is worth 40 points, where creativity and technique are only worth 30. But I like to include that in my email that I send to them. So even though the rubric and judging information file is in there, I point it out in the email also because that part's important, that they understand what the theme is and that interpretation of theme is worth more than creativity and technique. You can give them incentives. Hopefully you can find them without incentives, but it is allowed. Make sure you inform them of the deadline and let them know that they can have colleagues and friends help them as long as they also meet the same criteria, that they have some experience with what they're judging. So if you're using physical entries, make sure that they have an entry form attached. You don't want any mix-ups, so tape the entry form to the back of the physical art that you've collected. If you're still going to have digital entries with music, dance, and film. So those might most likely be on a flash drive. Just put them in individual Ziploc bags and attach the entry form to that. Or what's easier is combining all entries onto one flash drive. But when you do that, just make sure that you're properly titling them and click copy. Do not move or cut because you want to keep the original on the original student flash drive. Just in case anything mixes up, you still have the originals. But I do think it's easier for judges if you have everything on one flash drive. When you're ready to do judging digitally, you're going to share your Google folder or Microsoft folder with individual judges. Again, go through the files, make sure everything's titled properly so they know what they're reviewing. For example, when I send to my judges, I move all primary dance entries into a primary dance folder, and I include a copy of the spreadsheet. I remove things that they don't need to, they just need to see the artist statement, title, all of that stuff. So I hide anything that's irrelevant. And then I put my settings of the folder. Anyone with the link can view, and I share that with my judges. I repeat until every folder has been sent to all of my judges. Once you are finished with your judging, it'll be time to submit your winners to state. You're only going to submit your first place winner to state from each category and division into our Google form. This form will be shared when it gets closer to the deadline. Although the entire board's going to get my emails, only one person needs to fill it out. Do not share that link with families. Another big change this year is for high school division only, and it is optional. High school leaders may now submit their top 2 winners. And the reason for this change is due to lack of representation. Last year, we had 7 high schools participate with a total of 24 entries. In comparison, intermediate had 32 schools producing 84 entries. So with this change, we're hoping to be able to celebrate more high school students. No ties are accepted. If you have a tie, the student with the higher score for interpretation of theme is the one that advances to state. This is the same rule for advancing to national. I also want to mention that work will only be accepted if one student is on the entry form. Collaborations are not allowed, so they get disqualified at state level. It's not a new rule, but it occasionally happens with dance. They can have multiple dancers in the video, but they can only have one person responsible for the choreography. So just because that's like one of the more frequently mistakes I've seen, I just wanted to make sure I point that one out. So really quick, I just want to go over district reflections. So you might get questions from parents, and I just want everyone informed on why we operate the way that we do. So ideally, you would want each unit to submit to their district. From there, district winners move on to state, and state moves on to national, just like a sporting bracket. Since not all of our districts have a thriving reflections program, it would be unfair to exclude those districts from the program. So rather than advancing from district, local units are advancing their winners directly to state. If your district is active, you're going to be entering 2 different competitions. So you can win at district, but not state, and vice versa. Districts are going to send out information in the coming weeks. Just be aware of how they're operating. I believe that when it comes time to submit to them, you're just going to be doing it directly into my form. So you just have like a one spot to have to go. But just make sure you're following up with whatever your district sends out. On this slide, you see an example of my submission form. So you're going to complete the information and then move on to the next page. If you don't have an entry for a specific category, you just scroll down and click next. If your school has more than one division, you'll need to fill it out more than once. So complete it once per divisions. For example, if elementary school has intermediate and primary and also accessible arts, you'd have to fill it out 3 times. I updated the form to include acceptable file types. These types are what's accepted by national. So the form has some restrictions. For example, literature is only supposed to be PDFs. So that's what's allowed to be uploaded on the literature page. If you need assistance in converting, if your student submitted a Word doc and you need help converting it to a PDF to be able to upload it, just reach out. I'm probably going to offer a training on how to convert files when we get closer, because I know some people are not familiar with how to convert files, so I can help with that. When you upload an entry, rename the file to the following code: category code dot division code dot district code dot school dot student last name dot first initial. So dance is D, film is F, and so on. Make sure you're using your school name and not initials. For my example, I know Somerville High School, and it's not Somerville Elementary because it has an H as the division code. And if it had just said SHS, I could have confused it with Southside High, another one of our PTSAs. It's not in the same district, but I'm not familiar with every single school's district. So it's easier for me to keep track of which entries belong to who if it's coded that way. The deadline to submit is January 31st at 8 p.m. This is earlier than the previous time of 11:59 p.m. I often stay up after the deadline to try and get the folders to judges right away. So I bumped up the deadline to 8 p.m. so I can work on it at a more reasonable time. Make sure your winners are in our state Google form by then. Again, no ties. And the link will probably just be sent out like January 1st, 15th, and then again shortly before the 31st deadline. If you need it sooner, you can email me though. It's already ready to go. It is right here. Although we accept first place winners only, and now second for high school, we celebrate several winners from each category and division. We will announce our winners on March 2nd through email and social media. National and state does not use terms like first place, second place. For national, their first place is the outstanding award. For us, our first place is acknowledged as Award of Excellence. We have one Award of Excellence winner per category and division. This is who's advanced to national. Our second through fourth place winners are acknowledged as Award of Merit winners. They're not announced in any particular order, and you can find generic printable certificates on the national site. I create our certificates on Canva. Feel free to acknowledge your winners however you see fit. Some schools have big ceremonies, others make an announcement on a loudspeaker. Some schools have first through third, some have top four. Each school is allowed to run their program however they want. I've provided a fillable announcement form that you can edit for the school or district. Just make sure, again, click my copy. Now you're the owner. Make sure that you edit anything that's red. So the bright red you want to change to your school name. And then if any of these things are just not lining up as you change names and stuff, you can add me as an editor and I can help you clean it up. You don't have to use this though. This is just an optional announcement that I've provided if you want. Something to consider, you can download it as a Word doc, as a PDF, but if you want it as a graphic because you want to post it on Facebook or Instagram or anything, you might want to do a screen grab in Microsoft Edge. And if you want me to show you how to do that, I can do that after I'm done with all the slides. And so just remind me at the end. Okay, on to the big changes. So website updates. You've got, this was always kind of up here, some of these things, but you've got the theme search, this slideshow. This will be updated with the recording from tonight. Register is an important one. This is the promotional materials. Oh, I already had it open. So you've got the promotional material also in Spanish. You have promote membership through Reflections and that theme search. So this one has the QR code with the form. So you can use that, or if you just want to post this with the link to the theme search. But, if you're looking for something to post on Facebook and you're, running out of ideas, share that anytime. So you've got promotional material there, your Google entry form. This is the student packet that has that PDF that I was talking about, also in Spanish, Word. Then down here, you've got detailed category rules. I wanted y'all to see that one. So you've got accessible arts, again, everything in Spanish. Copy of rules, dance choreography, film. These are all of the broken down descriptions and rules and guidelines for each individual category. So this is what I wanted y'all to get familiar with before sending to your judges, know what qualifies for what. For nationals changes, they've updated the use of copywritten material. Guidelines were clarified to explain that while permitted in certain categories, copyrighted material in an entry must be incidental and a smaller element of a whole and used to create a completely new and different work of art. So we've got the Disney Castle and the Minnie Mouse. That stuff is trademarked, but it's not the main focal point of the photography image there. So that would be allowed. while the other is an original work of art, but is entirely made up of copywritten material that would not be allowed. Use of technology has been updated. Guidelines were clarified to emphasize that digital technology cannot provide primary design or concept for an entry, and that entrants must provide a brief description of how they used technology and software, including any generative elements. This applies to music composition, visual arts, photography, and anything else that can utilize AI. No video files are accepted at state for music composition. Again, that one's not a new rule, but frequently has slipped by and it's got to be enforced. So your students that regularly submit music entries, make sure that they know they cannot submit a video. They've got to just record it, audio file only. The wording has been updated for visual arts and literature guidelines. For visual arts, they changed computer generated images to digital art and graphics. Obviously, because now that we have AI, computer generated image means something completely different. So they've changed it to digital art and graphics. For literature, dictation is now permissible based on ability, not age. This slide has some guidelines that are relevant to all categories and just worth brushing up on your own time. The next few slides cover how to ID what category entries belong in. So for example, on the left, it's a collage of many photographs. They've all been printed and then glued onto a flat surface. That's considered visual arts. On the right, the image was edited in photo editing software and has been printed as one photograph. So that's submitted under photography. The editing software should be included in the details section. Again, on the right, we have a photography photo that's been edited with software. The image on the left is entirely made with software. So that's considered digital art and graphics, previously called computer generated image. It's an image that's created from scratch using software, not AI. So I know that this has been a lot of information. So to summarize, make sure you register with National, determine how you want to run your program, promote repeatedly on several platforms, look for your judges, submit your first place winners to state by January 31st at 8 p.m. Districts are going to be releasing information in the coming weeks, so make sure you follow your district guidelines, and you can always reach out to me or your district reflections chair if you need any help. Thank you so much for attending the Reflections Workshop. If you have no further questions, you can hop off anytime. I'm going to stay on and answer any questions until everyone is done. So how many judges do you recommend for each category? You can just have one per category. That's all I use. They all know that they can use additional people, but I just have one for visual arts, one for music, and so on. Good question. Yes, a judge can do multiple categories if they are multi-talented and they are willing to give you enough time to judge more than one category. Absolutely. Someone asked, if you only get one entry for a category, do you need a judge for it? No, automatic first place. they automatically are first place winners. You do not need a judge for only one, because I don't need the scores. I don't need to see that it has been graded, and so you don't need a judge. Automatic first place.
Are all this going to be posted somewhere easily accessible?
Yes. So right here, the slideshow, like that I'm going on live is right there. That is the one that I'm going through. This video will be updated with tonight's recording once it's available. And then all of the resources that are listed in the slideshow are all here also. With the exception of a few that are in the process of being added. I've sent everything to our webmaster and they are going to be adding it probably by tomorrow, I imagine. He's usually pretty quick. This video and all this information always available at scpta.org/reflections. And if you missed any of our other trainings, leadership training webinar, this is another spot that everything goes. This has all the way back through last year's stuff. So if you missed anything, there's lots of stuff on the website. This has tons of stuff. Just make sure you not only get familiar with the reflections page, but get familiar with other areas as well. Leader resources got a lot of stuff for you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.